introduce you to a family of Filipino martial arts. We usually refer to them as a family because in Filipino martial arts, we have what we call Kali, Arnis, Eskrima, forms of Salat. We have what we call Filipino Jiu-Jitsu and Filipino wrestling. And in our art form, we encompass all of these forms. Kali, Arnis, Eskrima are weapons art, or some people know them better as stick fighting forms, or sword forms, or fencing forms. In Filipino martial arts, we mainly use what we call a single baston, one cane, or it would be one blade, or a double baston, two canes, or it would be two blades. And then another form, the highest form, we call it the cane, or long blade, and a short blade. We call it espade e daga. So what we're going to be trying to do tonight is demonstrate a few aspects of each one of these forms. What we're going to try to do is logically put this together, so we'll perform this kind of the way we would do it in class, the way we practice. Many different ways to strike with the cane in Arnis, Kali, or Eskrima. The thing that's spectacular about Arnis is the speed of the weapon, the speed at which we can use these weapons. We can strike in like a tenth of a second with these weapons. So like in a second, we can hit a strike 5-6 times. So we'll try to demonstrate some of that for you. The strikes can come any direction from the opponent. And what we will do first is I'll ask Bob and Kathy to demonstrate the basic defensive technique against the striking. One person will do what we call feeding. Will feed the strike to the opponent, to the other person. The other person will do the defense and counter. So you can get a feel for how we practice in terms of feeding the strikes to the opponent and how the opponent would defend and counter the strikes. Second form was blocking and doing the disarms. We'll demonstrate that some more later on. But you notice that once we did the disarm, sometimes you end up with the opponent's cane. So it's desirable to be able to, once you have the opponent's cane, if you do a disarm, to use both canes. This is what we call the double baston. They were demonstrating single baston, but if you have two canes, then you demonstrate double baston. What we'll demonstrate are some of the drills that we use or we practice to develop the skill level in Arnis. using the single cane. We'll later be doing some more double cane drills. But since you saw the disarms where you acquired the other cane from the opponent, or took the other cane from the opponent, we will demonstrate a drill with the two canes that shows how we develop the skill level in using the two canes. So Bob and Jerome will demonstrate what we call Sinawali. Sinawali in Filipino means weaving pattern. We try to create a web network of defense against the strikes of the opponent. So right now they will demonstrate the Sinawali drill, our combinations of Sinawali, to demonstrate to you how we develop the skill level for using the two canes or the double baston. This is what would happen in the case where you would take the weapon from the opponent. You would go from a single cane technique right into striking the opponent with two canes. Now that you have two canes. So we need to learn how to use both weapons or the single weapon because there are cases when we have two. Okay, next thing that we'll demonstrate is, again, another drill. This will be using one cane just to, again, show how we start to develop the skill level. We call this hanging block, wing block drill. It's just a way of blocking against a high strike, and we can block either side. It's very versatile. So I'll ask Marianne and Jerome to demonstrate this for us. Slipping to evade the counter of the opponent. Blocking and countering. Blocking and countering. That's what we're doing. Later on, we're going to extend this a bit. So you'll start to see some of the more advanced techniques in terms of follow-up, in terms of how we translate. This is another very important part of our needs. We say that this is a weapons art, fencing art, using canes, using blades. But this art form is just as effective using empty hands. Because what we do is we take the movements of the cane, movements of the blades, and we translate these to empty hand techniques, mainly jiu-jitsu, aikido type techniques. I don't know how much you know about aikido, but aikido is an art form that was developed from the art of the samurai, from an art called akijutsu, where they use the movements of the sword to develop the drawing, the defensive ueshiba did it. Since this is a fencing, a sword art, we're able to do basically the same thing. We're able to take sword movements and translate them into very devastating throwing techniques. So we'll be demonstrating a little bit of that for you. But before I do that, what I want to do is, again, back to the single baston. I talked about the speed of the striking. us to evade the weapon. Okay, what I'm going to do right now is before I do that, I do one more single baston form or drill that we perform in class. And then what I'll do is I'll start to try to put this together to show you how we translate this using empty hand, how we can use the cane, double cane, doesn't matter, to incorporate the jiu-jitsu, the throwing techniques that I talked about earlier. And Marianne, if you help me now, I'll demonstrate. I'll demonstrate another blocking form that's very important. This comes from what we call the more advanced form, the Espade a daga, whereas we would use a short cane or long cane, or in this case it could be a dagger and empty hand, doesn't matter, but we'll demonstrate at least the blocking form. Hey! Hey! Shows how we take all of these basic drills and we put it together with certain things. Since it's fresh in your mind, the one I just did with Marianne using the dagger, I'll show you how we use the dagger, and then I'll also show you how we translate that to empty hand. So if you'll come. Hey! Okay. Hey! This way. Slow again. The opponent throws the strike to the top of the head. So what I do, I block this, I trap, and this would be a disarm by de-handing the opponent. So I would cut the arm off in this case. The thing that's beautiful about this art is I could use this weapon, it doesn't matter, I could just as easily use this weapon. So if the opponent comes again, he comes, this time I use this weapon here, and in this case here, he's holding on, so he runs right into the jab. Again, if the opponent holds on, if I use one, then this is interesting. If the opponent comes again, he holds on, he doesn't let go, I make it throwing this way. Because the opponent tends to hold on to the weapon. So what we do in this art, we go with the flow. If the opponent comes and I'm able to disarm and find, so he'll come with a number 5 strike for me. So in this case here, if I'm able to disarm, no problem. But if the opponent is strong and he resists the disarm, I go with what I feel. So this time he'll hold on again. We'll demonstrate the same thing. Try to do the disarm. I feel the resistance. So this becomes a flow to follow it and counter. Like this. Okay. If he comes with a backhand strike, this is the technique that got translated from the blade form. Notice before I trapped the hand and I de-handed the opponent. This time I used the empty hand, no problem. This time I used the empty hand to trap. This would be this arm. Again, I'd use my blade, my knife blade with this arm. So you start to see how we can translate this from the empty hand to the blade and back and forth. Okay. If the opponent, you saw earlier Kathy do the disarming techniques with Bobby. I'll do some of the more fancy disarms for you. So if you come with a forehand strike against me, this way. Again, we'll slow it down so you can see what's going on. Turn this way. So he'll come with the strike. I'll block this. I'll do the disarm out of this. I'll use the cane to throw. I'll strike. I can jab like this. Okay. If he comes with a strike the other side, now what I can also do, I can make the disarm and throw. In many cases, we can make this one kind of movement without making it a separate movement. So say you come with a backhand strike. So he comes with a backhand this way. This is a strike here. This is the disarm. This is the throw. And notice what happens. Another thing about Arnis is that we have to be ambidextrous in this art. Doesn't matter which hand we use. So you see in this particular disarming form, I ended up with the cane in this hand. I switched hands, and that doesn't matter. So one more time I demonstrate that. He comes this way here, I switch hands, I disarm, and here's the throw, I strike, here, jab, this way. Okay. Against the number 12 strike, this showing you different variations of the counters and defenses against the cane against cane situation. So throw me a number 12 strike. So against the number 12 strike, this way, you see him, what you see here is him clapping. Because out of this, I've trapped the thumb is what's going on. So I trap this, bring him into this. This becomes a lock here, like this, and the throw. Okay, so again, we'll try that. Here's the lock and tie. Okay, as I said, doesn't matter. Empty hand against cane, cane against cane, knife against cane, doesn't matter. And say again, the opponent comes and he throws the same strike. Now I'm empty hand, doesn't matter. So he comes this way, okay. So if you see what happens here, this way I strike the opponent with his own cane. This way I disarm. I can make this a throw like this. So this is what we could actually do. This is technical. No problem. If the opponent would come with the strike from this direction, I can still affect the same or similar type of disarming counter technique. So he comes with the backhand, for instance. So I can block this. I make the disarm here like this. Here's the throwing technique again. This can be locked in all of the parts. Okay. Okay. The opponent will come again, this time from the forehand, to show you how I can implement this again. Here's again, disarm and throw. Okay. All right. Okay. Kind of an idea. It doesn't matter. Any level we can practice this. So again, say the opponent throws a strike against me. This way. He throws a strike. I block this. This way. This would be my lock here. I can lock the opponent. Okay? He throws it, comes again. This kind of thing here could be throwing like this. Same as before. Locking. Alright? Opponent comes again. I block this way here. Bring it in. This way here. This way. So what you saw me demonstrate there is what we call continuous type hand striking against the opponent. So it's very, very fast. But you start to see it doesn't matter whether I use cane, empty hand, blade, I can always affect the same kind of techniques against the opponent. The opponent comes again, this way, arm, bar here, I can reverse this throwing here. Same kind of thing. Okay. any technique. So the art really transcends technique. I'd like what Bobby and Jerome to do now is, like, again, some of the grappling type techniques, but they'll incorporate some of the forms that come from Pentjacks a lot, some of the Salat forms and the jiu-jitsu and wrestling forms from the Philippines.